Right, this is International Force Rape Timeline Hangout 47, the first one of the new year 2021. The subject is statutes of limitations, something I've covered before in various videos. But this is a dedicated tranche. This is pre-recorded rather than live because I'm still having problems with the software because I want to edit out any coughs and splutters, and also because I've got some stuff I want to add which I can't really, not with my setup. I can't do with if I'm recording live. Coughs and splutters, yeah. I've been quite ill over the past, since New Year's Eve actually. Not the dreaded COVID, but haven't been feeling very well at all. So I'll try not to cough and splutter. I say statutes of limitations is the main the main subject, but I've got a few other things, news and things too, stuff I've dug out to go over. I've got a rather interesting case here from 1994. Middle-aged teacher had sex with a 13-year-old schoolboy, and she claims he raped her 3 times. She didn't report it. She blanked it out. But I've got to do a bit more research on that. She was tried for false rape allegation. She was tried for having she was tried for having underage sex, and she was partially acquitted, and there was a retrial ordered, or to be ordered. I haven't been able to find anything on a retrial. It's quite amusing actually, the background to it. I found I've just added 2 cases, well, more than 2, but two recent cases added to the timeline. I thought they were the same case, but they're different. There was two men called Michael, falsely accused in different jurisdictions. They've been drinking with women, and they share a bed together, and then she cries rape. They're both acquitted. Alcohol, always alcohol. There doesn't appear to be any involvement of rape counsellors here, but this is something that the rape crisis industry, rape crisis, and the sexual grievance industry has been pushing for a while. So they had first you got the I just froze garbage. You find a video on that. Well, a couple actually. The fraud, atomic immobility, and also that's a live hangout, and also a video I made. Well, before that, they were pushing the idea that women were being drugged and raped, drug facilitated rape, which I've stressed again, this has happened. There have been absolutely horrible cases, including of men who have been drugged and raped, or drugged and murdered, at least one case. But the idea that there's a vast army of men out there drugging women and raping them is just nonsense. In 2006, ACPO published a report, Operation Matisse, which examined this. That's on the timeline, and it concluded that the drug of choice was self-administered alcohol. Then the sexual grievance industry started pushing the idea that men were preying on drunk women, maybe buying them drinks, but just preying on drunk women. And now we've got to the stage where they go to bed together, but she doesn't want sex, or she's asleep. She wakes up to find this guy with sex with her. Well, I'm sorry, I don't buy into any of this rubbish. I should mention Katie Brennan. I'll just play the video of this woman, and then I'll comment on it.
Katie Brennan says the system failed her when she went to police with allegations that a former Murphy campaign staffer, Al Alvarez, allegedly raped her while she worked as a volunteer for the Murphy campaign in 2017.
They told me that it wasn't that they didn't believe me, but they can't take a case that they have the possibility of losing. Truth and justice were irrelevant because it was hard.
Sitting beside her attorney, Brennan outlined more than 24 ways the state could reform policies to make sure that other women don't have to go through what she did. Almost all of the reforms were based on her personal experience, which included changes to how prosecutors, judges, and police handle sexual harassment complaints.
I proposed law enforcement reforms. When I called the police, 4 of them came, towered over me, interrogated me to tears. They proceeded to write a report misspelling my name and misrepresenting the incident. They filed this report, which I didn't see until a year later when I could bring myself to pick it up.
Brennan spoke at the second public forum for the workshop on harassment, sexual assault, and misogyny in New Jersey politics. The group was founded by State Senate Majority Leader Loretta Weinberg with the goal to gather ideas on steps that can reverse the toxic culture for women in politics.
Although we might not change what's in people's hearts or minds, we change an atmosphere where people feel comfortable to act out if there are inappropriate thoughts in their hearts and minds. And I think that's one of the biggest things we'll be doing here.
The 13-women panel is made up of women who work in New Jersey politics, including Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver.
And now we have to move towards, just as you're seeing Harvey Weinstein, we have to begin to make people accountable, find out if they're guilty, and a victim should not feel that they have to carry that trauma the rest of their lives.
Brennan says while there are rules in place to protect against sexual assault, harassment, and misogyny, she says there is still not enough accountability.
The Legislative Select Committee's report issued last June found that we have rules and protections in New Jersey, many on the progressive forefront, but they weren't followed. Do not let your own fear of a difficult conversation make an environment unsafe. Admit fault, take responsibility. It is never a convenient time for a revolution and never a convenient time to smash the patriarchy. It is never a convenient time to hold your friends and colleagues accountable. But now is that time. Change is here and change is coming.
The next and final public forum is planned next week at Rutgers University in New Brunswick. In Mount Laurel, Raven Santana, and JTV News.
I probably won't be adding her to the timeline. I don't believe she was raped. What happened was she and a guy named Alvarez, they were both married but not to each other. They went back to her apartment, and from what I can tell, she changed her mind at the last moment. Then she claimed she was raped, and I mean, she had me believing her right until she mentioned abolishing the patriarchy. I mean, it's all feminist garbage. These women, they really are pathetic. She did report this phantom rape almost at once. So they weren't doing things they shouldn't have been doing, but why did this married woman invite a married man to her apartment on her own? Oh, victim blaming! No, I'm not victim blaming because there was no victim. Well, maybe Alvarez was a victim, but they really are pathetic, these women. From pathetic women to evil women. An update from Jack Rebolledo. He's one of a number of falsely accused men with whom I've had contacted. He supplied me with some copious documentation. You'll find him on the timeline at June the 18th, 2018. Briefly, his second wife was a total nutter, and she actually staged a rape, a serious assault and a rape. But they were living apart, and she claimed that he attacked her in the garage and sexually violated her. And she dragged in a young son and daughter as witnesses, as innocent witnesses, if you like. Forget the phrase I used there. Fortunately for him, Jack was out of state at the time. Now, an allegation like this should have warranted serious prison time at least. In fact, she's got a diversion program. If you're not familiar with it, they have these in New Zealand as well, and probably I think they have them in Canada. It's allowed, as long as she behaves herself and does what she's supposed to do for the next, whatever, I think it's 2 years. 2 years in her case. Her criminal record will be expunged. It's absolutely outrageous. I mean, absolutely outrageous. He's obviously very unhappy with that. This is the Epstein case. There's an update on that. This Jeffrey Epstein. Black name Jean-Luc Brunel has been arrested. He's 70 something. I think about 76. All sorts of people have been accused of all sorts of crimes. There's obviously something going on here. I mean, you can't argue with Epstein's conviction for. He really did get off light in Florida. There's obviously something that's been going on here, but I don't buy into this grand conspiracy stuff. I think a lot of these women were prostitutes, like Virginia Roberts, who was a prostitute, and the idea that she was trafficked to London to force to have sex with Prince Andrew, I don't think so. She was a prostitute. Sarah Ransom was another one, false accuser, but there were definite victims here with. He shouldn't have been doing what he was doing with underage girls, put it that way. Which brings us to statutes of limitations. Very recently, on this subject, there's a case, a bloke I may have heard of, a businessman from North Wales called Lawrence Jones, founded a company called UK Fast. He's recently, in 2019, he was two women. Two women.
Sexual assault. Following reports in 2019, the offences are alleged to have taken place in 2010 and 2013. Absolutely, I mean, I really don't know about these people, these women. There's another one here. This is North Wales policewoman admits sexual contact with vulnerable man while she was on duty. She was just unbelievable. This policewoman that was thrown away a pension for. Anyway, this guy, I don't know if he even knew women, but you can see how this turns out. Yeah, I mean, you heard the usual bunk about the victims being afraid to come forward. I blame myself. I just froze. All that rubbish. Right. This dovetails neatly with statutes and limitations. Now, what prompted me to make this hangout on this subject is this case. This is a young woman named, well, not so young now, Harmony Allen. I had a photograph of this genuine rape victim to the video. Find this one. Here we go. Oh, that looks bad. Okay, this is okay. This will be on the screen for about 7 seconds. I said 7 seconds because a photograph or a screen grab inserted into my program translates to 7 seconds of material, 7 seconds of footage. There were 2 photographs there. That was Harmony Allen. Harmony Allen, as you can see, was a rape victim. She was raped. She joined the American forces, the Air Force, and in her 3rd month she was raped. She reported the rape at once, but she didn't report the man who raped her. She claimed it was I think it was a stranger rapist. It was only after she left the Air Force she named him, and he was put on trial, convicted, sentenced to 16 years. After 2 years his conviction was quashed because of the 5-year statute of limitations, which sounds unfair, and it is. But his case went back to the court, and he's back in prison now. Now, the sexual grievance industry, rape crisis, Women Against Rape, all these organisations and lobbyists say that this is there should be no statute of limitations on rape. If I could find this, here we are. The Foundation for Survivors of Abuse, working to remove the statute of limitations to provide justice and healing for survivors of abuse. And there's a lot of guff here about how it takes survivors years or even decades to come to terms with the abuse, the rape, the whatever, and what they want essentially is for any woman at any time to be able to accuse any man of rape or some other sexual offence, and for this guy to be convicted. Now, this fantasy of healing and justice has nothing to do with the Harmony Allen case. Let me tell you why. We're talking here, what they're talking about is reporting allegations of rape. Harmony Allen reported her rape promptly, so there was physical evidence, and no reasonable person would dispute that a rape had taken place. But the cases these organisations allude to, these are women who come forward, I love that expression, come forward years and decades later and claim to have been sexually abused when they were kids. Some of them may be genuine,
but the vast majority are either lying or confabulating. I've covered this in previous videos, but you know, it's very easy for people to confabulate, to merge dreams, even films, things they've seen on TV, with reality. And overwhelmingly the women who make these allegations are seriously not right in the head. There's literature on this going back to the 1890s, a bit before that. Sigmund Freud came up with this crazy idea that child sexual abuse was rampant. It isn't. Kids confabulate, and later these confabulations, these memories, they percolate and they become distorted. Very easily done. Check out the bunny effect, for example, which is on the timeline, and explains how easy it is to induce false memories in ordinary people, ordinary level-headed people, and most of the women who make these allegations are not. There's tons of evidence for this, and you get lots of pathetic people, men as well as women, who blame all their problems on some fanciful sexual abuse when they were young. It really is shocking. There's a way around this. I can't remember the actual case now, but there was a case. I watched a documentary about it. It was I think in California. Usually it's California, about a woman who was raped, and at the time there was a 6-year statute of limitations, and they didn't know who the guy was, so they issued something called a John Doe warrant. This is the way around this. If there's good evidence a crime was committed, and in her case there was, overwhelming evidence that she actually was raped, they issue a John Doe warrant for the owner of the semen or the DNA or whatever, and if at any time over the next 10, 20, 30 years his DNA semen comes into possession of the authorities, he can be prosecuted. But what these airheads are talking about is something entirely different. Now, statutes of limitations exist for a reason. You have them in civil cases. In the UK it's 6 years, I think it's 3 years for libel, or maybe 1 year now. I actually had something to do with that, because 1999, myself and my colleague Mark Taha, we and the late Maurice Riley, we brought a series of live action
by suing bookshops. But there's no statute of limitations for murder. There are statutes of limitations for summary offences. The law varies from country to country and from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. But so the Harmony Island case isn't comparable to what's been happening. What does happen in a lot of these cases, what happens in a lot of them is that the police go trawling for victims. We saw this after the death of the TV presenter Jimmy Savile. There was a documentary called The Other Side of Jimmy Savile was released. It was actually based on lies from women who had been inmates stroke
pupils at Duncroft School in the 1970s. Savile was questioned about their allegations 2 years before his death, and he debunked them. After his death, they were repeated, and this led to a witch hunt of celebrities, Operation U-Tree. We've seen similar things elsewhere, in particular the Bill Cosby witch hunt in the United States, which was absolutely outrageous. I'll be covering the next hangout I do will probably be on the media, the power of the media, mischievous media. That had a lot to do with it, and the corrupt lawyer named Laura Allred. But what happens in this country and elsewhere is that you have a report of an allegation of rape or some other offence against a doctor, a teacher, housemaster, somebody like that. About 30 years on, some woman decides she was raped, or sometimes there are male accusers, and the police go looking for paedophile rings, and they interview all manner of people. Some of these accusers have been, they find, from schools for maladjusted kids, and for units, secure units and such. They're of poor character. Some of them had really rough lives, and suddenly they find themselves a centre of attention, and there's offer of compensation. If you look at the false rape timeline, you'll actually find law firms under the entry for Edward Heath. You'll find law firms actually putting adverts in prison magazines appealing for victims of child sexual abuse. It's outrageous. So there are statutes of limitations there for a reason. Well, for reasons. If you were to walk into, if a woman were to walk into a local police station and to report a burglary, and the station sergeant or whoever is behind the desk nowadays says to her, "When did this happen, madam?" and she says 3 months ago, what do you think would be the next question? But with anything sexual, we're supposed to throw it out the window, throw scepticism out the window. Now, there are times, I mean, if a 12 or 13-year-old girl claims to have been sexually abused some time ago, then she should be taken seriously. Doesn't mean she's telling the truth, but she should be taken seriously. If a woman in her 30s says the same thing, if she's reasonably intelligent, educated, you need to exercise a lot of scepticism. Now, there are a couple of cases on the timeline I've alluded to in the past, which illustrate the danger of bringing historical prosecutions. There are cases in which the false accuser reported promptly. But I'll just go over them again. One was a bloke named Dawes, who, Dawes, he went to a club in Beverley, Humberside, picked up a young woman. They went back to his home. They had sex in his parents' bed. Having got what he wanted, he didn't want anything more to do with her. She asked him to phone for a taxi, and he said, "Was a phone down the street." This was before people had. Well, this was before most people had mobile phones. I still haven't got one, by the way. She ended up accused him of rape. She claimed he dragged her into an alleyway, forced her to fillet him, and she managed to run off. And what happened was the police went to the alleyway. She claimed to have vomited. That's right. She claimed to have vomited in the alleyway. They looked in the alleyway, found no vomit, but they went to his home and arrested him anyway. He told the truth. He said that they'd had sex in his parents' bed, and the boys in hazmat suits did a spectacular job. They went over the place, and they found a fibre from one of her socks. She'd been wearing boots with socks, and she ended up in court. And another one, which is even more incredible. A guy named Andrew Bond went to a club or pub. This was again in the north of England, and he picked up a young woman. They went back to his apartment in a block of flats, and they had sex. And suddenly, I don't know, if she was married or something, she left, ran out, and she went to a relative who lived nearby and claimed she'd been raped. He was arrested. They believed her, or thought there was sufficient evidence, so they charged him. Just before the case comes to trial, there's disclosure of CCTV evidence. A lot of elevators have a mirror in them, don't they? And it's CCTV from the elevator. This is about 2001. And the paralegal noticed this. She got in the elevator, this woman, this false accuser. She opened her handbag, and her knickers were in her handbag. She tore them, and the paralegal noticed this in the mirror, not directly on her, but in the mirror. She was seen tearing her knickers. They showed this to the prosecution, and the prosecution dropped the case. Yeah, you can imagine in both those cases, if the false accuser delayed for 6 months, a year, it would have been she said, he said, and why would a woman lie? Because the forensic evidence would they have found a fibre in the bedroom? I doubt it. Would the CCTV from the elevator still be there? I doubt that. So, statutes of limitations have a place. Now, there are all sorts of reasons false allegations are backdated. As I've said before, there are a lot of women out there who are seriously not right in the head. We know there are a lot of men who are violent, gratuitously so, psychopaths, sociopaths, call them what you want. Violence of women is very different, a lot more subtle, and a lot more efficient. If you're a man and you go around assaulting people you don't like for whatever reason, or just for the fun of it, at some point you're going to end up you're going to destroy your own life as well. You might stab a few people, but at some point you're going to end up behind bars. For a woman, though, to destroy a man, all she has to do is utter those 3 little words. And if she backdates the allegation, it's she said, he said, and again, why would a woman lie? Not he said, she said, he said. Whereas a prompt allegation, there will be she said plus physical evidence, he said. The evidence may be fabricated, but a prompt allegation should always be given more credibility than a purportedly delayed one. Unfortunately, we've seen on both sides of the Atlantic attacks on statutes of limitations. As far as I know, there have never been any statutes of limitations here. In Canada, they were abolished in 1981, I think it was, for sex crimes. And Gloria Allred and her gang have actually had some success in removing statutes of limitations in certain states. There are all sorts of other things. There are false memories, confabulation. At times, people do actually incorporate things from from films, from TV, from other circumstances into their own lives. I think about it. If you've been to, say, Egypt, I haven't been to Egypt, but if you've been to Egypt and you've seen the pyramids, right, you might remember that. Now, if you haven't been to Egypt, and you think about pyramids, obviously you know that this isn't a memory. This is something you think about. But if you've been to Egypt and you've seen the pyramids, you might misremember something that goes with them. With regard to misremembering, there's the Lost in the Mall experiment, which I think I mentioned before. But there's also the incredible experiment done by Elizabeth Loftus, the Disneyland case, the Bugs Bunny, the Bunny effect it's called. You'll find it referenced on the timeline and on my main a short video on my main website. How easy it is to induce false memories into ordinary, level-minded people. And a lot of these people who have these false memories, they're not, or misremember things, remember things that didn't happen. They're not level-headed. Alcohol is a big factor. Prescription drugs, recreational drugs, all three taken together approximately the same time can have symbiotic effects, and people can fabulate. We all have false memories, probably every day. Very, very trivial stuff. You put down your keys somewhere, and you trace back in your mind where you left them. You'll hear somebody say something, and when you recall it, it'll be slightly different, because as Elizabeth Loftus is fond of saying, memory isn't like a video recorder that can be played again and again and again. It's like a Wikipedia page that anybody can edit, including accidentally. There are quite a lot of cases on the false rape timeline of false memories and historical allegations. Some are true. Let's be quite clear about this. Some are true, but unless there is, I would say, very strong corroboration, it's always dangerous to convict somebody of historical offences of sexual nature, or indeed of any nature, I'd say, without strong corroboration, and that does not include corroboration by volume obtained by police trawls. Anyway, check out the false rape timeline and some of the videos I've made associated with it. You'll find all my videos to do with this. You'll find all the videos I've made related to this subject at the Internet Archive. And I will add this to my YouTube account, and next month to the Internet Archive. Again, any questions anybody has for me, you know where to find me. If you have any donations, either Luca or of cases, as for example my Australian correspondent sends me, feel free to contact me with those as well. Okay, so check out the false rape timeline, and I'll holding another hangout maybe later this month, probably next month.